Hello guys, welcome to Tiny Scroll. Be sure to like this video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This is Saving Nora episode 15. To see the full playlist from episode 1, check the link in our description. Nora frowned. Before she could answer, a gentle but anxious voice said, "Are you trying to drive me to my grave, Henry?" On the hospital bed, a gentle, middle-aged woman wearing a hospital gown struggled to sit up. Her scalp had been shaved, and her illness had left her looking frighteningly thin. Her cheeks were sunken, but all the physical effects of her condition couldn't hide her kind and gentle personality. She was Irene Smith, Nora's aunt. Nora took a couple of quick steps forward and sat on the edge of the bed. She held her hand and said softly, "And Irene." Irene looked Nora up and down for a moment. Then her eyes turned red. "You look so much like your mom now you've slimmed down, Nora." Her voice trembled as she spoke. "You've had such a hard time all these years." During Nora's years abroad, Henry had never given her a single cent. It was Irene who had always sent her money. Although it wasn't much, it had been her way of showing kindness to her niece, and it had warmed Nora's heart. Interrupting the lovely moment between aunt and niece, Nora's stepmother, Wendy, said, "Nora, your aunt has been pretty good to you ever since you were a child, right? She's sick now, and you're the only one who can help. You won't watch her die, will you?" Nora frowned. A brain tumor? She picked up her aunt's medical reports and CT scan results and started to read them. Wendy continued to nag at her side. "Your aunt's operation is too difficult, Nora. A single mistake and she'll suffer brain damage. Everyone in the hospital is afraid to do it. Dr. Larson, the head of the Department of Neurology in this hospital, is Angela's professor. If she begs him to do it, maybe he'll be willing to take a risk and give it a go." Wendy sighed before continuing. "But now, Anthony's saying that without the company, he'll never get engaged to your sister. Angela is terribly upset. We can't expect her to help when she's already under so much stress. You can fix this. If you give your sister the company, Angela will ask Dr. Larson for help. Whether your aunt's operation goes through or not completely depends on you now." When Wendy finished speaking, Henry shouted angrily, "You must also apologize to Angela for sabotaging her marriage proposal, for seducing Anthony out of spite, and for attacking her." Wendy, who seemed determined to try and keep up her act as the good guy, said, "Henry, stop. We're a family. What are you saying all of these things for? Nora, your aunt's operation can't be delayed any further. You need to sign this agreement as soon as possible." Throughout this exchange, Nora had been reading her aunt's CT scan over and over. It was indeed a tricky operation. The tumor had enveloped the blood vessels, so the slightest mistake could lead to fatal complications. Her aunt could die in surgery. Very few doctors anywhere would dare to take on a surgery like this. Nora herself, or more accurately, Dr. Athena, was one of the exceptions. Many in the medical community proclaimed Athena as a once-in-a-generation prodigy. After all, she blazed through over a decade of medical school and surgical practice in only a few years. But Nora was humble. She believed she only managed this through dedicated studying and practice. But everyone knew it was due to her immense intellect. Next to her, Irene was yelling angrily at Henry and Wendy. "Henry, that company is the one thing that Nora's mother left for her. How can the two of you be so greedy?" Wendy smiled. "Now, Irene, that's not quite true. She didn't just leave it to Nora, did she? She was still married to Henry at that time. It's their joint property. You're so shameless." Irene looked at Nora again. "Don't listen to their nonsense, Nora. My illness is incurable. Even if you sign that agreement and have them perform surgery on me, there's a 90% chance that it'll fail anyway. Don't give in to them. Just get out of here." "Okay, I'll visit you again when I have time." Nora put down the medical record and turned and walked out. Her aunt was in a serious condition and could not afford any further delays. Nora knew the first thing she needed to do was contact the hospital and ask to borrow their facilities. Henry and Wendy hadn't expected Nora to just leave without a fight. They watched in shock as she disappeared from the ward. Henry cursed. "She's completely ungrateful after everything you did for her, Irene." Wendy seemed equally bitter. She lamented, "You were so kind to her, Irene. But in the end, she didn't even want to stay with you a moment longer." Irene bit her lip. Her eyes were red. Finding me a doctor had nothing to do with Nora from the start. In his father's suite at Hotel Finest, Pete was struggling with his tutors. Why didn't you finish your work from this morning, Pete? This section is completely blank. We can't continue with the afternoon syllabus until it's done. Finish your work. Pete took another look at the assignment. The tutor was lying. This hadn't been part of his assigned work. He didn't speak, but instead turned to calmly stare at the tutor. The tutor curled her lip. What are you looking at me for? Your father had no problem with these lessons when he was your age. Don't you even know how to do this question? Maybe you inherited your brains from your mother, whoever she was. I suppose we can blame her stupidity if you're not up to this. It was only when he heard the word mother that Pete finally reacted. His jaw was clenched as he picked up the pen. He started to work through the questions quietly. He had already learned how to solve these problems a long time ago. I'll show them. My mom isn't stupid and neither am I, he thought resentfully. But as soon as he finished, the tutor said, You haven't done it properly. Why don't you write out your workings? I've already told you so many times. Stretch out your hand. Pete thought, do I really have to write out my workings for such an easy question? He didn't move. The tutor immediately grabbed his hand, took the ruler and struck his palm hard 3 times. The pain made Pete's eyes widen, yet he pressed his lips together tightly and refused to make a sound. This is punishment for not taking your lessons seriously. Stand up. Only well-behaved students get to sit during their lessons. Pete stood for the next 2 hours until his calves were sore. Only then did the tutors end the afternoon lessons. They were still whispering between themselves when they left. He really can't speak. All right, don't go on about it too much. The old lady has instructed us to take good care of him. Okay, we'll come back to report to Mr. Hunt later this evening. We'll make sure to report the child was stubborn and didn't do what he was told. Children who don't do their homework aren't good children. After the 2 of them left, Pete looked at the homework assigned by the tutors on the table. He knew that his answers would definitely be wrong again. Even if he completed all the work, they would still say that he hadn't done it right. Even so, he didn't want to speak. He pressed his lips together tightly when he thought of what the consequences would be if he gave in. All he wanted now was to talk to his mom and the little girl next door, who was so good at playing games. The light in his eyes flickered again when he thought of seeing them. Unfortunately, the lady next door had been sent away, so she was now staying 1 floor down. 1 floor down. Pete stood up and quietly left the suite. He knew he couldn't take the elevator without his father's bodyguard stopping him, so he crept along the wall until he reached the door to the stairwell. He opened the door carefully and darted in. Meanwhile, while Mrs. Lewis was distracted with making dinner, Cherry was also taking advantage of an opportunity to slip away unnoticed. She had managed to make her visit to the top floor the previous day, but she was still determined to go up there and look for her father. Cherry was dressed in another stylish little outfit. She entered the stairwell and her short little legs climbed up the stairs with great effort. As she walked, she realized she could hear footsteps coming down from above. As she looked up, she saw Pete walking down the stairs toward her. Their eyes met, and they both froze in their tracks.